So the story is the story of Shuaib alayhi salam. I will share with you guys my PowerPoint presentation also so that you can understand where the story took place. First of all, these are the surahs in the Quran. These are the surah numbers. And these are the ayahs in which we hear about Shuaib alayhi salam. Shuaib alayhi salam is mentioned in these ayahs. In some ayahs, he's mentioned twice. That's why it said twice in the same ayah. So if you want to learn about where in the Quran Shuaib alayhi salam is mentioned, these are the places. Now, Shuaib alayhi salam was sent to two big cities or two big, settlements. One of the settlement was Madian. The other settlement was Aikah. Aikah and Madian. Okay. Now I'll show you where it is in the map. Look at this map here. Okay. Now, this is the Arabian Peninsula, what you see in the top right corner. Okay. In the Arabian Peninsula, right in the middle is the Saudi Arabia. And where you see this rectangular box in the smaller picture, that's basically what's zoomed in here. Okay. In the zoomed in picture, you see this text in red color. That's where Shuaib alayhi salam came, this yellow dot, this big yellow dot. Let me zoom in more. Okay, it probably may not be very clear, but you will have some idea. So this is somewhere to the south of Palestine. This is south of Palestine. On the other side, you will see if you go further here, you will run into Egypt right here. It's Egypt. Okay. You have Palestine at the top. You have Saudi Arabia down south. And that's where Shuaib alayhi salam came in the Gulf of Al-Aqaba, which is known by this top city at the top, because that was a big port in those times, Al-Aqaba. And down you see this big water body, that's Red Sea. So the Red Sea had a big trade route. Let me show you another picture so that you understand. Okay, this is the picture from now. This is like, these are the countries now in the world map. We got Jordan, we got Palestine, we got Saudi Arabia. Right here, do you see this little opening right here? That's where Shuaib alayhi salam's people were, south of Jordan and south of Palestine. On the other side of the Sinai Desert is Egypt. That's where they were, okay? Now, what was the advantage of these guys? Let me show you in a map. Do you see this map here? Bunch of lines. These were the trade routes. What is a trade route? A trade route is, back in those days, you will carry stuff from one place to other for selling purpose. So there were some trade routes in the water. This is going all the way to India. And then you see this top line that's going to China. That's called the Silk Route. And Shuaib alayhi salam people were right here in this big rectangular box. So they had access to somewhat sea route. They had access to somewhat the land routes, especially the one coming down from Yemen, all the way going through Mecca and Medina, and then splitting and going to Egypt. They were right there. And that's why they were so evil. And I'll show you why they became so evil when they had access to all this stuff coming through them. And let me show you a more colorful map. Okay, this is the more colorful, this is a much bigger map. Do you see the blue lines? That's the sea route. And sea route is also going in. Right there, Shuaib alayhi salam people were, where I'm moving my mouse right now, okay? Then up north, you see these orange lines. That's the Silk Route coming from China and Mongolia. And then you have these red lines. They were the connectors into the Silk Route. There was a major trade route coming down into Egypt, going up into Europe, right? And then you have this route, the gray colored trade route from Yemen all the way to Egypt and up going into the Byzantine Roman Empire. So the people over here, like this, we're talking about before Romans were even around. The Shuaib al-Islam people are like over 4,000 years ago, these people were, back in before the Romans. But this is basically the trade route that they were sitting in. So what they did, these people said, okay, so much stuff is coming through our cities. They would sit on the trade route and they will attack the caravans. And they will take everything away from them. And the caravan would have to go empty-handed. That's one thing they would do. The second crime that they committed was that they started going into, they became the businessman, but they were cheaters. They started cheating. How did they start cheating? I'll now explain to you. What they did when they were cheating, they had, you guys know the scales to balance stuff? Like in one part, you put goods, in the other part, you can put weight. And if you have ever been to a grocery place, they have the scales in which you can put stuff and it tells you how much it weighs. So they had scales and they would cheat on their scales. The buying scale that they had, they would do different weights, that they would buy more stuff for less price. And then when they will sell less stuff for more price. So they were cheating. So Shuaib alayhi salam was sent to these people to stop them from cheating and also to stop them from attacking the caravans. So when Shuaib alayhi salam reached these people, they were all idol worshippers. They were all worshiping stones and they were cheaters. And they were like telling Shuaib alayhi salam, you don't have to tell us how to live our lives. We can live our life however we want. You don't have to tell us what is good, what is bad. How can you tell us what is good, what is bad? You are just a person like us. You are no different. You eat like us. You live like us. You are from among us. You're a human being. And then Shuaib alayhi salam, as the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, that inna madyana wa ashab al-aikati ummatani ba'ath Allah ta'ala ilayhima Shuaiba. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that Shuaib alayhi salam was sent to two people, the people of Madian and the people of Aikah. And they were both involved in this mischievous act. So Shuaib alayhi salam would call them towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Quran says, كذب أصحاب الأيكة المرسلين. And the people of Aikah denied the prophets. They said, nope, we're not going to believe in one God. We will not going to fix ourselves. We're not going to stop what we're doing, because they were getting money. And the other thing was that these people were living in the gardens, surrounded by beautiful lush green trees and grasses. And they had all the luxuries of life, and they had access to fresh water. And they're like, we have all the blessings. If Allah is unhappy with us, then he will destroy all these things. Since we are living in all these blessings, then we are perfectly fine. Shuaib alayhi salam constantly told them over and over again. And you know what Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam told us about Shuaib alayhi salam? That he is one of the best speakers. When he would go out in public and he started speaking, people will be like listening to him like, wow, how can somebody speak so beautifully? He was such a great speaker. He had the public speaking power. He was such a good presenter, but still people refused to listen to him. And they now started telling to Shuaib alayhi salam, Shuaib, bring to us whatever you have been promising. Then Shuaib alayhi salam said, well, if you see the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you won't be able to stand the punishment. But they were like, nope, that's okay. Bring it on. Then finally, Shuaib alayhi salam made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, oh Allah, these people are not believing in me. The Quran says, وَإِلَى مَدْيَنَ أَخَاهُمْ شُعَيْبًا. And to the people of Madian, the Prophet Shuaib alayhi salam was sent. قَالَ يَا قَوْمِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهِ. He said to his people, worship Allah alone. مَا لَكُم مِّن إِلَٰهٍ غَيْرُهُ. There is no God to be worshipped but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he was sent with clear signs, but they still refused to believe in him. And then you know what happened to them? فَأَخَذَتْهُمُ الرَّجْفَةُ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down earthquakes. First the earthquake came, and then their houses were all destroyed. But not all of them died yet. Many of them died because of the earthquake. They were still like, no, Shuaib, it is just, it happens. It's all natural disaster. Earthquakes come, cities get destroyed, people get killed. We are fine. And then came أَخَذَهُمْ عَذَابُ يَوْمِ الظُّلَّةِ. Then clouds start gathering on their heads. When the clouds started gathering on their heads, they were like, oh, it will rain, and our farms will go more beautiful. And the clouds gathered and became darker and darker. And they were happy they were going to rain. It did rain. But you know what came out of those clouds? Fire. It was a rain of fire that struck them and burned them. And they were all gone, and they all died. فَأَخَذَتْهُمُ الرَّجْفَةُ فَأَصْبَحُوا فِي دَارِهِمْ جَاثِمِينَ. And then when this huge catastrophe hit them, they were all gone in their own houses, because when these earthquakes came, they didn't even have a chance to escape. And when this rain came, they didn't have a chance to escape. So between the two punishments, they were gone. They were destroyed. Both the people of Madian and the people of Aikah, they were gone. And then let me show you another slide here from the presentation, just so that you know. That's what we're talking about. Let's see here. Okay, here. Now, this is the ayah from the Quran in Surah Hud, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that when Shuaib alayhi salam actually came, وَيَا قَوْمِ لَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شِقَاقِي أَن يُصِيبَكُمْ مِثْلُ مَا أَصَابَ قَوْمَ نُوحٍ. O my people, do not let your opposition to me lead you to a fate similar to that. Don't oppose me. I'm the prophet of God. Don't fight me. Because if you fight me and you oppose my message, same thing will happen to you as happened to the people of Nuh. So we know that Nuh alayhi salam came before him, or Hud, that means Hud alayhi salam also came before him, or Salih alayhi salam also came before him. And now he says, وَمَا قَوْمُ لُوطٍ مِّنكُمْ بِبَعِيدٍ. And the people of Lut are not far from you. That means the closest people in terms of distance, and in terms of time to the people of Shuaib alayhi salam were the people of Lut alayhi salam. So that's why he mentioned them. Now, what happened to Shuaib alayhi salam? Where did he go after that? Now, there are two different stories. Where did he go? Some people say that Shuaib alayhi salam left Madian and he traveled down to Makkah, because Makkah was already there from the times of Ibrahim alayhi salam. It was there before Ibrahim alayhi salam too, but it was now constructed as a house of worship. And he came many hundreds of years after Ibrahim alayhi salam, or probably a few thousand years, we don't know. And so he traveled down to Makkah. That's where he spent the rest of his life. And he was buried very close to Darun Nadwa in Makkah. Darun Nadwa was a big house next to Kaaba, where the people of Quraysh used to do councils. Their chiefs would gather in that place. So that's one story about where he was buried. The second thing is that he traveled down south. He came to Makkah. He performed the Umrah and the Hajj and everything, and then he went down south to Yemen. Where did he go in Yemen? Some people say he went in the Yemen to a place called Hadramaut. Hadramaut is where he spent the rest of his life, and then he was buried in Hadramaut. We don't really know for sure, 100%, where exactly between the two locations he was buried. But there are a lot of prophets who were buried in Makkah, because after their people were destroyed, they travel to Makkah, and then they spend the rest of their life in Makkah. So we don't really know exactly at what age he passed away. We don't really know his age. We don't really know exactly where he passed away, but we know from the Quran that he did come to the people of Madian and where the people of Madian are located, and he passed away after his people were destroyed. Okay, so this is, in short, the story of Shuaib alayhi salam. We're going to come to the questions next. Let me stop the sharing of the screen. Okay, and which prophet are we talking about next time? Let me tell you that before we come to the questions. We will be, inshallah, talking about, we already talked about the other two brothers, Ishaq alayhi salam and Ismail alayhi salam. We already talked about those two brothers, Musa alayhi salam and Harun alayhi salam. So Musa alayhi salam is the most mentioned prophet in the Quran. And Harun alayhi salam will talk along with Musa alayhi salam because it's the same time frame.